do
But
that.
even though they would say it like that, but in practice, Chinese have embraced conquering
Right.
nature, and India is embracing under Modi
Yes.
and under Nehru, and so there is something attractive, tempting, feeling that yes, this is the way, right way,
Yeah.
and all our Taoist and Hindu and Buddhist and holistic and non-dualistic thinking is okay, idealistic and so on, but in practice, economic growth and technological growth and conquering space and conquering moon now, not only conquering nature here, but now we want to find other planets. There is something drive. If it is not human nature, what is it which is driving more or less or large percent of humanity in that direction? Even though there's a big ecological movement, big thinking around the world, people are reminding again and again that this is not the right way to go. And yet, Google and Facebook and NASA and all the governments, 200 governments meeting in Paris, although they accept climate change, but the solution is scientific and technological.
Right. Yeah.
There's no holistic solution.
Right.
What is it?
And so I think to answer that, such an important question, is to look at this question of, since we know that traditional Chinese thought, traditional Indian thought was nothing like this Western scientific worldview, how and why did those transitions happen? And in the book I develop a kind of a theory of that, a theory, if you will, of how core cultural values change. And really what it has to do with is when those core cultural values get basically demolished by force, and when the people who are the prominent people standing for those values get humiliated by, and get seen to do that by a whole culture, the new generation will start to throw out those old values and say, we've got to take these new values, which are the ones that are more powerful. So if you look in history, I mean, China is this great example of that. When in the 19th century, European powers started really humiliating China, even if they didn't invade it like other countries they colonized, the humiliation essentially led to the same thing. By the early part of the 20th century, you see new generations of Chinese thinkers, the more people thinking really for themselves, throwing out the old practices and getting even more strongly behind Western ideas than some Westerners. We've got to believe in Darwinism, it's survival of the fittest, we've got to do that in China. And now, of course, you see that happening in modern China with capitalism. So there's this sense that when a culture undergoes drastic disruption, and the values that worked in the past no longer work, a new generation will rise up and throw out those values and look for new values. And often, if there's a conquering nation, they'll look to that conquering nation for those values, which just so happened over the last few centuries to be starting from Western Europe, which is how we see what was once Western culture is now globalized culture. But to me, that whole theory of change offers a real sense of hope too, because as we're looking now in this generation, and we're looking at our whole global civilization also undergoing massive disruptions with climate change, with this path towards the precipice of unsustainability. I think right now, the younger generation right now, and the generation that will follow, is asking, like, how did these values go wrong? We need other values to supplant these.